Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to start I guess, but this will be the first and maybe only video I do on April reading. So I have a document, it's 6 pages, but a lot of it is just screenshots of pages, or not screenshots, but like photos of pages that I took that I'm probably not going to get into here, but that's okay. But yeah, I just want to go into a few of the books I read in the month of April. Technically, well, today's the 29th, so I'm not going to finish any more books. I think I read 7 or 8 books this month, which is a really good month for me. I had more time to read. Even though I was working a lot this month, I was working in a position where I got to read more. So I actually ended up, I think, reading more than I would on normal work month. But I just want to go into a few of them. Some I liked more than others, which is natural. The first one I read, at least the first one here, is Television by Lauren Rothery. And I was really excited for this book. It was a small book. I think it was like 200 pages, maybe even less. It's like a dual point of view book. There's 3 main characters that we follow, and it's about an actor, his kind of on and off girlfriend slash just like friends with benefits that they have this really strong connection with. It's kind of like the actor really only has that person that they can be fully comfortable with, even though a lot of the things that they do that they don't feel good about, they like to keep from that person because they just feel like she won't approve of it. So I was really into it at the first half of the book. It was very like lit fic style writing, like the prose and just what was happening. We weren't really following like a real plot. I mean, I guess the main plot is that the actor decides to lottery his money that he's earning on this like sci-fi movie that he's doing. So he kind of like gives away all of his money and all the back end profits or something crazy like that. And it ends up making the money, it makes the movie like a ton of money because everyone's going trying to get this lottery. So they're buying all these tickets and stuff. But halfway through the book, they introduce a different character, a character named Phoebe. And she is a writer. I think she's living in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Her grandmother just died. It's been a while since I read this, so I'm kind of just going off my memory. But at first I assumed that this character would be the lottery winner because I was kind of like, who is this person? What's her connection? And I don't think there was a connection. I was waiting for it to connect and there was just nothing and it never connected. And so I was kind of like, this feels like 2 different books happening in one book. And I don't know. I was not really a fan of the way that happened. It's a very readable book and it's very short, so I'm not like mad about it. I don't feel like it was a waste of time in any way, but it was just like, I was expecting a little bit more, that's all. I started City of Quartz by Mike Davis. I did not get very far into that, but I'm still reading it. It's not like a DNF. I'm just taking my time with it. But in the sort of the beginning, first section of the book, he's talking about noir, like Hollywood noir, which is what I'm really into right now. I've talked about it a few times on this channel. And something I like listed down. So he's talking about James Ellroy here. He lists a few different Hollywood noir books, and I actually ended up reading a few of them. But he is referencing The Black Dahlia, which is a book I'm reading right now. But he says, yet in building such an all-encompassing noir mythology, Elroy risks extinguishing the genre's tensions and inevitably its power. In his pitch blackness, there's no light left to cast shadows, and evil becomes a forensic banality. The result feels very much like the actual moral texture of the Reagan-Bush era, a supersaturation of corruption that fails any longer to outrage or even interest. The thing that stuck out to me is there's no light to cast shadows. This is kind of a new genre for me, but after reading that and then reading a few of the other books, I kind of realized exactly what he meant by that, because when I was reading, there's two other books. So I read Day of the Locust, and then I read Ask the Dust, and what is, hold on, Nathaniel West wrote Day of the Locust. And then John Fonte wrote Ask the Dust. To me, they're very similar. They're both, well, one, Ask the Dust is like the 30s, and I think Day of the Locust is in the 40s. But around that era of Hollywood, and these people who are so desperate for these lives that they came out to Hollywood to pursue, or some of them are from there, but you know, their desperation to achieve these things, I think, kind of drives them crazy. And there's also a lot of like desire for other people, and I kind of liked that they used both the desire for a career, or, you know, a place in the world, or a status, as well as the desire for another person. So both of those books feature both kind of together. But the thing about the lightness, I feel like both of them had that. There's these moments of lightness that come, I would say Ask the Dust more, because he actually does end up with a modicum of success. He's a writer, and he starts the book out with this one, I think it's like a short story in this newspaper or this magazine. And it's like the one thing he has, and he ends up publishing, I think he like ends up publishing a novel and another short story. So throughout the book, it's like he's in this very precarious situation. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's like asking for money from his mother, or he's like stealing milk. He's living off of like oranges. But then he'll have these little bursts of luck, and he'll get some money from his agent, and then he'll go like spend it like crazy. And he ends up spending a lot of money at the very end on the woman that he's infatuated with, Camilla, who does not love him, but she definitely uses him, which is another similarity with the other book, because there's a character that wants to be famous. She wants to be a famous actress, and she ends up using this guy his name is Homer Simpson, and he's in love with her as well. I would say that Camilla doesn't really use Arturo, which is the main character in Ask the Dust, in the same way, but there's kind of this weird tension where they're like mean to each other. Like Arturo does these horrible things to her, but then they're kind of like, they can't stay away from each other, but ultimately she's in love with this other man who also hates her. And then, But the real like cathartic moments in both of these books is that there's a lot of like outbursts of emotion and crying. There's multiple instances in both these books where men are like sobbing. And it's I feel like it's something I don't see a lot. Like men crying. And there's something so, again, like cathartic about it. There's a scene in Day of the Locust where the woman leaves Homer Simpson after he's been letting her stay there, live with him for free. And she leaves in the middle of the night, and he just is sobbing, crying, and he can't go on. And there's just like, when there's so much darkness and depravity going on, and then you have a moment like that, it really does, as the reader, it makes you like sigh a bit of relief, like, okay, like I can release this. Like, I've been reading this for however many pages, and there's finally a moment. And to me, that feels like the lightness that is mentioned, you know, to cast those shadows. So that was all a lot to say, but I liked both of them. I think I liked Ask the Dust more, just because Day of the Locust I really liked, but I couldn't follow it in the beginning. I honestly, like, the first quarter of the book, I was kind of just not paying attention to what I was reading. It didn't really hold me in the same way, whereas I felt like I was engaged with Ask the Dust from the beginning. So that's just, I guess that's how I will rate those, or like, I know in a way that I clearly was more involved or more interested in Ask the Dust. Okay, moving on. So that was like 4 books that I just talked about, or 3 books. Then I read Rejection by, I will probably butcher this, but Tony Tula-Thimudi. And this was really fun. This was a popular book. I think it came out last year or the year before. And this book is obviously all about rejection, and it's short stories. It starts out like very classical short stories with the common theme, but about halfway through, it kind of changes up, and it's almost like the rest of the book is a response to that middle story. So I don't know, it was like it changed form completely. And I'm not mad at that. I think it was very interesting. I haven't read a lot of books like that. It was very clear, and here's the thing that's like so, I don't know, inception-y about this book. I, as a reader, could tell very quickly how this author identified himself within a specific character, and then kind of how the one character that I felt like was written with the most empathy was the character that was based on himself in a way. And maybe it wasn't at all, but he knows that, because at the very end he writes this rejection letter. It's like so meta. It's a rejection letter of this novel, like a publisher is rejecting publishing the novel, and the whoever's writing from this publishing company is saying, like, you're clearly inserting yourself into this character. And then like I it's really hard to explain now because it has been a while, but I would urge anyone to read this because it's so trippy. And just like the self-awareness of like going and then saying, like, I know that I'm doing this, and I'm also gonna write about how I know how I'm doing this, and like it's almost like too much, but very interesting. I don't know, if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. It kind of gave me a little bit of like a Bruce Wagner vibe. Just the kind of the sacred and the profane that he talks about a lot. I really felt that in this book because there was some like real profanity in this book, but then there's also a bit of the sacred as well. But speaking of profanity, I then read Overexposed by Sylvain Lotringer, and I believe that he is one of the founders of Semiotext, the publishing house. And what is there to say about this book? This is the one that I just kind of put down screenshots and I didn't even write anything down, so completely off the dome. This book is about, I think it's based in the 80s. It was written in the 80s, I believe. And it is about this sexual, how do I put this? It's like a treatment facility for sexual deviants. And I think he's undercover and he's like reporting undercover. So he's interviewing the doctors and the doctors are explaining these techniques and these machines that they're using to track people's urges and what they are turned on by. And it goes into some really graphic depictions of what these people are into. I had to skip over some of it because it was like, I don't need to read that, you know? And it was, I thought it was going to be different from what it was because the first chapter kind of goes into some, I guess, sociology or philosophy, Freud, who else? Foucault, like kind of talking about how sex as a taboo maybe has like the opposite effect. And I'm that's like a gross mischaracterization of what those people are saying. And I maybe even just like not even, I don't know. But I did want to read, after reading that, I did want to read The History of Sexuality by Foucault. I started it. I've not gotten too deep into it. You guys, if you've been following me, I'm not like, philosophy is like a little bit above me. And that's kind of why I get it through other sources. I don't like to go to the source very much because I think like any really academic texts just fly over my head. So I do struggle with that kind of stuff. But I try to branch out occasionally and see if I can take things. So I am going to try to read it. Not try to, I'm going to read it. I just don't know how much it'll stick with me or how much I'll really understand it. Okay, the last book I'm going to talk about is The Divide by Morgan Richter. I just finished this book a few days ago. This is a Hollywood mystery novel about a girl who is kind of like a failed actress, and she has this psychic business in Hollywood. And one day in the beginning of the book, a police officer or detective comes to her and essentially says that she is now a suspect in the investigation of this murder of this director who actually directed the movie that she was in 20 years ago called The Divide. This was the only movie she was ever in. They ran out of money or they lost the funding, so they could not get a theatrical release for this movie. So it didn't really see the light of day, and she never got to really have a career out of it. But this director did go on to do other things, and he became very successful. So he's been shot dead, and his ex-wife is now missing. She was last spotted with him, and then she went back to her home, and then all of a sudden she's completely disappeared. The thing is, the twist is that the ex-wife looks exactly like this psychic failed actress. She's like the complete doppelganger of her. And this ex-wife, who's an artist now, has told everyone that she was actually the actress in that movie. So she's essentially like stolen her identity in a way. So this psychic is like, I need to figure out what's going on, and also I need to like talk to this woman and ask her, why did you take credit for my movie? Like, this is the one thing I ever had in life, and you've taken the credit from me. So long story short, it's a mystery novel. She does figure out what happens, but towards the end of the book, we realize that they are the same person. So there was an incident that happened in her past when she was like 18 years old, where she is hit in the head, and she wakes up and there's two of her. There's the one that's waking up on the ground, and there's another version of her that's above her that's running to a bus, and she's gonna go to New York and become an artist. And this is like, I had a great time. I really liked this book. It was really fun, really readable. I would recommend it if you like that kind of stuff. But I almost feel like it's like, it doesn't know if it wants to be a sci-fi novel or like a straight up mystery. You know what I mean? Like, because it doesn't really go into it. It doesn't go into like the sci-fi realm of the fact that this is now like a split person who's living two different lives, and then she's like murdered. Not the main girl, the girl that splits off from her. And I guess I'm spoiling the book. Oh well. I really liked it. I was just kind of like, what? I don't know. But I had a great time. So if anyone has any recommendations for books in the similar vein, drop it in the comments. Oh, I just belched a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave the video here, and I don't think I'm gonna edit this. I think I'm just gonna post it, and yeah. I'll talk to you guys later, and I would like to do more of these kind of videos. So yeah, thanks for watching.